Hi, I'm Jeff. This is my Jeep, nicknamed the Hulk. It's a 1982 CJ8 Scrambler, which when I bought it almost 20 years ago was almost completely stock. It was gorgeous. And in the decades that I've had it, I've done a lot of modifications, virtually replaced every part on here with something new or different. So it's not exactly the vehicle it used to be. Now, why is it called the Hulk? Well, a couple reasons. Number one is that it does have superhuman powers, and it's the same color as the Incredible Hulk. And also, the more beat up it gets, it's looking more like a Hulk with all the dents and scratches and all of that. The engine is a fuel-injected V8 Chevy 350, 1991 model, so it has throttle body fuel injection, very reliable engine. Fenders here have been replaced with these smaller ones. I have a worn winch in the front. It still has the original leaf spring suspension on all four corners. The leaf springs were upgraded. These are actually YJ springs, which are wider and softer and to give more flex. They have 4 inches of lift over the stock axles. And then in addition to that, putting the springs up on top of the axle adds about another 5.5 inches. And then I have a 1-inch body lift. So the total lift on the body is about 10 inches altogether. The axles are both Curry axles. Front is a high pinion Dana 44, chromoly shafts, CTMU joints, worn locking hubs. The rear is also a Curry. It's a Rock Chalk 60, 488 ratio, and Detroit lockers front and back. Wheels are Champion beadlocks. Tires are 38.5-inch Super Swamper TSL SX. Works really well on the rocks, terrible on the highway, but I don't drive it on the highway, so it doesn't matter. On the inside, this is the shifter. The transmission is a 700R4 4-speed automatic, but I like to shift, so I have a manual valve body, so I have to actually move this to shift it, but there's no clutch, so I kind of have the best of both worlds. Transfer case is a Dana 300 with 4-to-1 gearing and twin stick shifters. I have 2 radios, the standard CB radio. I also have a 2-meter ham radio. The roll cage is custom made, very strong, very stiff. It's connected very securely here, and it also goes down through the floorboards. It has several cross members, including 2 that go across under the seats. So the seats are actually bolted onto the roll cage instead of the usual way of having them bolted onto the floorboard. So it makes a really stiff, really strong cage setup. The biggest thing that you'll notice on this Scrambler compared to most Scramblers is it's a lot shorter. This used to come out about 17 inches further back here, and I just had it basically amputated and the back portion moved forward. So that took about 17 inches off of the length. The advantage of that is that it's much more maneuverable. I don't get hung up every time I go over a little rock or a ledge. The true Scrambler aficionados are aghast about mutilating a Scrambler, but there it is. Oh, what have I broken? Oh my gosh. The most common thing to break are the worn hubs. Probably broken about 4 or 5 of those. Broken the front axles twice. Broken the front drive shaft once. Rear drive shaft twice. Rear pinion gear broken once. Pinion gear coming out of the transfer case broken once. The old CJ8s tend to crack their frames, and I had some pretty serious frame cracks down through the years, so the whole frame is now double plated. This dent is the Hulk's beauty mark. This happened, as you can see here, on the Outer Limits Trail out in Johnson Valley. Just sort of did a little semi-flop into a rock. Fortunately, it's just cosmetic. I just kind of left it there as a conversation piece. Done most of the interesting trails in Southern California. My favorite place to go is Johnson Valley. Been on almost all the trails out there multiple times. And of course done Motino Wash, and up at Big Bear, done all the trails up there. Been to Utah, to Moab. One of the interesting things at Moab is a trail called Lion's Back. If you go up what's called a fin, which is a narrow piece of rock, on each side of you is a sheer drop-off of several hundred feet. Probably the scariest thing I've ever done in the Jeep, even though technically it's not a difficult drive. It's really, really pucker-inducing, particularly at the top where you have to turn around and it's not very wide. The sides of it are not sharp, so you're never sure exactly how far you can go before you start to slide down and, end up going off the cliff.
Top Alliance back here.
I think I made about a 10-point turn up there while sweating the whole time. But it was really spectacular. I'm glad I got to do it while the trail was still open. Been out to Calico innumerable times, done the Gatekeeper many times. The Gatekeeper at Calico, I have a long history with the Gatekeeper. I first tried doing the Gatekeeper in this vehicle when it only had 33-inch tires.
Now turn this way toward me. Okay, back up. See, your back tire's too high up on this. Okay, you're just coming up now. There. No, this way, this way.
I'm going to
Come
slide
this way,
down to
Jeff.
right.
You got it. Okay, now bring it.
I couldn't make it, and I'd done a lot of body damage. I've broken my rear diff. I've broken several drive shafts trying to get up the Gatekeeper. But then as I gradually upgraded, got bigger tires, and became a better driver, it became much easier, and now it's fairly easy. The things I like the most about this vehicle and about Jeeping are, number one, you get to do it in beautiful locations. Number two, you get to usually go with a great group of people, so it's always fun out on the trail. And it's just fun to challenge yourself, to go over a difficult obstacle that you didn't make before and now you can make it. So it's the challenge, it's the beauty, it's the camaraderie of all the people out on the trail. It's just a blast and I love it.